The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello, I'm Carl Seidel, host of The People's View. The show is sponsored by the Nashua City Republican Committee, and if you like to attend our meetings, they're the second Thursday of every month at 6:30 at the Crown Plaza. And if you want to find out more about our organization, you can go to NashuaGOP.org to see our website and learn about the events that we have. Hello, and help me welcome Steve Stephanek. Steve, welcome to People's View.
Thank you so much, Kyle. Thank you for inviting me.
And tell me why, and tell the people why you decided to take on this job of GOP head.
Well, you know, a lot of people have asked me that question. Why do you want the most thankless job in New Hampshire? And I guess you have to go back to how I got involved in New Hampshire. You know, I came up here, Carl, back in '78 when I was a young 26-year-old kid. I had $2,000 in a machine I didn't know how to run, and I was coming from Massachusetts because I could not afford the taxes and the regulations. I couldn't start a business in Massachusetts. I came up to New Hampshire. It was welcoming. It had low regulations, low taxes, and it was easy to start a business here. As time went on, my business thrived. I reached the point where I could afford to buy my own building. And again, New Hampshire was there to help me through industrial revenue bonds. And I'll tell you a little quick story. I had to go before Governor and Governor's Council for the industrial revenue bond for approval. So I'm there in a packed executive council chamber, and I've got my bond counsel, my banker are there, and I had to, at my turn, I had to give a little spiel about what I was going to do with the money and how many jobs I was going to create. I had to present it to Governor John H. Sununu. So I said, Governor, this is what we're going to do, and we expect that we're going to create between 10 and 15 new jobs within a year. And the governor says, that sounds very good, Mr. Stephanek. You understand, though, that if you don't create those jobs, you have to give all the money back. And I was, at that point, you know, I was around 30, 31, and I just froze. This is my first experience with politics, and I was like a deer in the headlights. I didn't know what to say. And of course, after a few seconds, it seemed like forever, my bond counsel gave me a nudge in the side and said, Steve, he's just kidding. And of course, Governor Sununu, with that very typical laugh, starts laughing, and then they hold the vote, and they vote for me, voted for the bond and passed it. But the point is that because of what the Republicans created through low taxes, low spending, they created the New Hampshire Advantage, which allowed my company to start and to grow and to prosper. And I got involved in politics first as a selectman in Amherst and then as a 5-term state rep.
Right.
As a way to pay back, to make sure that the next generation had the same opportunities as I had and could grow. So young kids who are coming into the state or living in the state can start a business or start a career and grow and prosper in New Hampshire because of the New Hampshire Advantage created by Republicans. Republicans like Governor Thompson, Governor Sununu, Governor Merrill, Governor Benson, and now Governor Chris Sununu. These people and Republicans in the House and the Senate have created a New Hampshire Advantage that has allowed people like me to be successful, and I want to make sure that that continues and passes on. So I have looked at the state of the Republican Party, and I will be perfectly honest, and I tell people the Republican Party as an organization in New Hampshire does not exist. And it has to be rebuilt from the ground up, and I'm willing to do that, roll up my sleeves, and make sure that the Republican Advantage, which was squandered by the Democrats when they had power, but rebuilt by the current governor and the legislature, Republican legislature in the House and the Senate, does not fall away. That we don't have what I call the Democratic disadvantage, which is bigger government, higher spending, more regulations, higher taxes, all of that, which it just destroys the economic vitality of the state. And so we need to have a strong grassroots Republican Party that's well-funded, that can, in fact, win in 2020, both at the House, the Senate, keep the governor's office, get back the executive council, and of course, win for the president and the Congress. We have congressional seats coming up and a Senate seat.
That's right, definitely.
So we want to win all of those back, and we want to turn New Hampshire red again.
Right. You've had all the organization work in 2016, so you have connections throughout the state, I assume, and you're going to use those?
Yes, I mean, I am. People have asked me, and everybody knows that I was the co-chair for the Donald Trump. I was one of the first people coming out to support him, and I am a strong Trump supporter. But I tell people, because they're concerned, well, are you just going to be somebody that is there only for Trump? And I tell people that I am a New Hampshire Republican first and a Trump supporter second. However, I am still a Trump supporter. So obviously, I am going to be working for, as an organization, we're going to be working to make sure that everybody from the president on down is we have an organization that supports all of these people, all of these candidates. I've been a state rep for 5 terms. I've been in the trenches. I know what support they need and what support they haven't gotten in the past. You've been a state rep, you know it. We don't get a lot of support from the state party because they have a top-down attitude or have had in the past. So, you start at the top, the presidential, the Senate, the House, the governor's office, and then it peters out. So there's very little support, or has been in the past, for the Senate seats, the New Hampshire Senate seats, and the state rep seats, and even the county seats. We need to change that philosophy. If we build a strong grassroots organization from the bottom up, focusing on town committees and getting more people, more activists involved, and build a strong support system, that benefits everybody from the House seats all the way up to the presidential run. And that's what I want to do. Obviously, I tell people there's 3 things that the new chairman is going to have to do: raise money, raise more money, and then again raise more money. Because obviously the Democrats, and I'll take my hat off to them, have been very, very successful at raising money. They've been very successful at their messaging. Not that we agree with it, but they've been very successful with it. And they've been very successful at organizing. They've out-organized us, out-fundraised us, out-messaged us. And at the end of the day, the result was we failed at the polls. We need to change that. And it starts with fundraising, grassroots organization, building a cohesive team throughout the Republican Party. We all have to unite. We all have to have one message that we go forward with and that we get out there. We have to have people who are good in data, people who are good with social media. We've got to...
Okay. Well, that's what I was referring to by that question. Basically, you have a lot of people, contacts throughout the state, that you're essentially able to build a team that's effective throughout the state.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what we haven't had. We haven't coordinated our efforts in any way.
No, there hasn't been a good coordination. There's never been a real effort at building a strong grassroots organization in the state for the Republicans. And part of the reason is when I first ran in 2000, I was over in Amherst, and I was told, just get through the primary. And there was a lot, it was a very robust primary. If you get through the primary, you don't have to worry about the general election. It's you don't have to do anything because you're a Republican in Amherst, and just you get elected through the primary.
It's changed a little bit.
And it's changed. And so we never really focused on the grassroots effort and building the good, solid grassroots organization because we took everything for granted. We can't do that anymore. We've got to get more sophisticated about it. We've got to reach more voters. We've got to reach out and talk to people about the Republican advantage that we create for New Hampshire and why it's important and why they need to support what we believe in. And I think if we can get that message to people, I think that we will win. I know we will win in November. But we have not done that. We have not activated people. We have not raised the money, and we have not gotten the message out. And we did a lot of really good things this past term.
Definitely.
I mean, you were a state rep. We passed a lot of good regulations. The governor reduced significantly the number of regulations within the state, which allowed business to blossom and prosper.
Well,
We've reduced, to a certain extent, the business profits tax. And even with the reduction in the business profits tax, which the Democrats said would significantly impact the revenue, we actually saw revenues go up.
and we still do.
And so that message did not resonate. We did not get that message out to the voters. And all they heard was the Democrats' message. Right. And without them understanding what our message was and what was done by the governor and the legislature going from the last term, people said, well, all I'm hearing is what the Democrats are telling us. And quite frankly, the Democrats were very clever. They took credit for a lot of what Republicans did,
right?
And the Republicans didn't counter that.
No, not at all.
So that created a problem, and we saw it in the polls. So we have to change that dynamic completely.
Right. How do we do that? I mean, are we going to use the social media? We're going to use some other kind of communication?
Well, the first thing we have to do, Carl, is raise money.
That's right.
And after we've raised the funds that are necessary, we've got to start with the grassroots, and then we've got to have people, and there's lots of people with a lot of talent within the Republican Party who want to help. All they need to do is be asked. So we need people who will come forward, who can work with us. We need a team and build a communications team, a social media team, a data team, so that we can drill down and find, and which is what the Democrats have done. And that's what we need to do to counter that and reach out to the voters. One of the things that Donald Trump was very successful in doing 2 years ago was reaching out to people that had never participated in the political process. Now, I was on the ground doing a lot of groundwork. I was at the old home days. I was at the county fair, sitting in the little booth, signing people up. And the biggest thing I heard over and over again was, how do I register to vote so I can vote for Donald Trump? I've never voted before. I haven't voted in decades. He brought new people into the process. We have to reach out to those people and bring them back into the process and make them understand that they need to support not only the president, but the entire Republican ticket. And that I think we can successfully do. And I'm really looking forward to doing that.
Okay. Do you see using public access TV for anything?
I think that all types of media need to be used. So you've got, and it all depends on which group of people you're trying to reach out to, because everybody is in a different category. So you have to reach out, and we have to have a program that resonates and talks to college students about what's going on. We have to have organizations on the college campus to work with the college students so that they understand that going forward, if they want a future, if they want to start their own business, if they want to start a career, it's not going to be given to them.
Yeah.
But they've got to have the opportunity, if they have an idea, to move forward with that. And you cannot guarantee somebody, here, this is your guaranteed new business.
No.
Here's your guaranteed career. And that's what the Democrats sort of promise to people. We're going to guarantee you success.
Yeah.
No one can guarantee you success.
You have to point out how they fail in their efforts.
But you have to be able to give them an opportunity to succeed if they work hard.
Right.
The Democrats, through regulations and taxes, are taking that opportunity away, and people don't understand that. And so when you go to try to start a business, if you've got too many regulations, if you've got too many expenses, if you've got too many taxes, you fail. Because starting out as a small business, you don't have all the answers or the resources in order to navigate that. They make it so that only big companies can succeed. And New Hampshire's reputation and their past successes have been based upon new companies coming in and starting and growing here in New Hampshire. And if we overregulate, overtax, then that's not going to happen. And we have to let the college kids know that in the future, they need to understand that if they want to be successful, then they need to support a Republican agenda that will allow them the opportunity to start businesses, to start careers, and grow and build a future. And the Democrats don't believe that. They believe the government should be in control of everything. And
they know best.
They know best, and they'll make the decisions for you. And that's just not a philosophy that will work in the long term.
We have two young Republican organizations in the state, one in college and one just anybody. Why do you think they weren't as active as the Democrats were in their young people?
You have to understand that there were outside Democratic groups that literally
supported it.
Were pouring millions. There was an effort just in New Hampshire of over $1 million spent just to activate and register college students in New Hampshire.
I know that.
And we didn't have anything to counter it. So when you're facing that kind of outside resources coming into New Hampshire and you have nothing to counter it, the only message that the people are going to hear is the message that's being promoted. And if you don't have a countermeasure to that, you don't have a counter message to promote, then they're only going to hear one message.
So are we looking not only for money, but for people who can lead these efforts?
Absolutely. And again, I say, there's tremendous amount of talented people willing to step forward. But if you don't have the basic organization and the basic resources to support them, then nothing's going to happen. If you have the basic resources, if you have an infrastructure, if you have leadership, then you can bring these people in and build cohesive teams that are going to be dynamic and are going to really change the conversation as we go forward, whether it be with college students, millenniums, people who haven't participated in the political process in a strong way. If we can bring all those people together and get the message out to them.
The people that haven't participated in the political process, as you put it, how large do you think that is? You think it's quite a bit of people? Because I got the impression that a lot of people didn't come out to vote, even though there was a high voting
You have
number.
to understand that you've got registered voters, but you've got a very significant population. I mean, we have 1.3 plus million people in the state. Anybody over 18 is qualified to register to vote, who's a resident of the state. And we have 700 and some odd thousand people who are registered to vote. There's a very significant portion of people who aren't registered to vote, who don't participate in the process. In a presidential year, we get a very significant number of people who are registered to vote, who vote. And we're right at the top, within the top 5 states. It varies every year, but we're usually 1, 2, or 3 as far as the highest percentage of our registered voters who participate. But we have a whole universe of people
people who haven't registered and people who didn't get out to vote. I mean, there's what, 15-20% didn't vote this time.
Well, that was in a midterm. When we're 2020, for example, looking at presidential, we'll probably only have 10 or 15% who don't vote, who are registered.
Right.
But I'm looking at the universe of people who aren't registered.
Okay, good.
And we need to look at how do we bring those people into the process? How do we excite them about, because their lives are so busy. Some people have 1, 2, 3 jobs, and juggling that with family and kids and so on, they don't get involved in the political process. We need to reach out to those people and say, you need to be involved in the political process. You need to take a few minutes to register and to vote and to understand what the issues are. But we have to make that effort to reach out to those people and bring those people into the political process and hopefully bring them over to the Republican side of the political process.
And what do you think is going to be the most effective way of contacting them and get them active?
And that again is looking at individual groups of people and saying what are the, and this is where the data mining comes in. Right. This is where social media comes in. What is interesting to these people? What is going to get them involved? What is going to get them excited about voting and about what's going on in New Hampshire? And that's something that we have to work on and figure out. There is no crystal ball, there's no one answer, and there's definitely not a cookie cutter solution for everybody.
Right.
You have to
have multiple ways.
You have to have multiple platforms that you're working from, as far as how you're reaching out to people, how you're messaging to people, and all of these things. It all comes back down to one thing. All these things take money in order to put the program together. Once you've put the program together, we've got significant numbers of people who want to get involved, who have talents, who want to volunteer. But without the resources to put the core organization together, we can't effectively use all of these talents.
Well, you see here in Nashua, we got wiped out, more or less. We don't have anybody who's in our legislature that's a Republican. We don't have anybody who's on the Board of Aldermen who's a Republican. We have only 2 people on the Board of Education who will probably not get reelected because of the way they've looked at them.
Don't. At this point, I don't want anybody saying who probably won't get reelected, because we're going to be focusing on municipal elections, we're going to be focusing on town elections, we're going to be focusing on county elections all the way up.
All the way.
And we're going to, my attitude is, it's all positive from this point forward.
Okay.
What's happened in the past is water under the bridge. We're looking forward. We're looking at what we're going to do in the future. And in the future, we're going to start taking back these seats.
Step by step.
Little by little, step by step. And we're not going to concede anything.
Okay. So again, it gets back to the money and how we're going to organize that. You have people that throughout the state that can go to where the money is. And not only in the state. Part of the problem is that the Democrats have gone outside the state and been very successful at raising money outside the state. They've been very successful at going to their various special interest groups and selling them the fact, and rightfully so, that because of New Hampshire's first in the nation primary status, they need to play in New Hampshire. They need to be on the national stage every 4 years. And they have been able to put a program together with these outside groups where they are putting in hundreds of thousands of dollars, not only into the state party, but also into the individual candidates. Yeah.
And that has given them a significant advantage. New Hampshire Republicans have primarily focused on funding from within New Hampshire. So we're funding locally, and we're trying to compete against the Democrats who are funding nationally, who are going to New York, who are going to Los Angeles, who are going to Washington, D.C., and they're getting vast amounts of money coming out from out of state into New Hampshire, and we're trying to compete with just funding from New Hampshire, and that's a model that's doomed to failure.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a tough job, and I hope you've lined up the people that are going to help you.
I've got a lot of people who are coming forward to help. Obviously, I always run a campaign like I'm 3 votes behind. So I'm working very hard. I'm making a lot of phone calls, having a lot of meetings with a lot of people, going to a lot of different events, and I will just keep my nose to the grindstone, and I will not count success until that last vote is counted on January 26th and I am declared the winner. Until then, I'm still just the candidate.
Okay. Well, I hope that we have you back as you go along in your effort, and when you get elected, that
I like the positive attitude.
Okay, that you tell us how what you're working on and how we can help by giving you a little bit of exposure throughout the state.
I will look forward to coming on this on a regular basis. Nashua is an important second largest city in the state. It's in a very important district. We're working on making sure that we've got, again, revitalizing all of the committees, the county committees, the city committees. I would like to see in all of the city committees that they drill down and they start doing people who are ward committees,
right?
So that you have a committee in every ward in Nashua, in Manchester, in Concord, and Derry, where the 4 city committees are, that we have people who are in charge, and just like in Hillsborough County, we have town committees. In the cities, we should have ward committees.
Right.
So that we have people who are as close to the voter as possible, who know what's going on in that ward, who can help recruit candidates in that ward, who can help get the activists motivated within that ward, getting neighbors, talking to neighbors about our message.
Okay. Well, that's good, and whatever way we can, we'll help you get that, and we should talk a little bit more.
I look forward to it, Carl. And again, thank you so much for bringing me on. I really appreciate it.
Okay, very good. And thank you all for listening in. And if you want to become active in the Republican Party, please contact us. The information's at the end of the show. We look forward to you tuning in to the next show. And come to the Republican meetings, which are on the second Thursday of every month at the old Crown Plaza, now Doubletree Inn in Nashua. Thank you.
And to everybody out there, have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.